The Mazdan Way and Islam. As we mentioned at the beginning of this essay, some outside observers might be tempted to confuse the Mazdan Way with Islam because of certain external appearances or regional symbols. This confusion would be a great error, as we have seen Islam took many characteristics from the ancient Persian religion and culture, and in a way Islam seems to have been originally inspired by Persian ideas, as they may be a tremendous impact on Arabic culture throughout history. Additionally, the whole movement called Sufism owes most of its existence to the Persian concepts and practices. In the beginning, these influences were stronger. As time has gone by, these characteristics became weaker. As it stands now, Islam is highly restrictive, ideally bound by rules and regulations, generally anti-female, and often beset by vague fears and anxieties. It was not always that way. At one time, Islam was a bastion of intellectual freedom and innovative spirituality. Medieval Islam generally held the attitude that if a man met his religious obligations mostly a matter of external behaviors, his mind was free to think as he would. This attitude changed over the years under the influence of Wahhabism after 1700 CE and other fundamentalist teachings, but in the glory days of Islam, this was the prevailing attitude. For this reason, Muslims were able to preserve and translate texts from Greek and Zoroastrian philosophy and make use of them in ways that only a small minority of Christians were able to do until the Renaissance. The original doctrines of Islam were already heavily influenced by Persian ideas. Historically, this is explicable by the fact that Arabia, until the days of Muhammad, was a desolate crossroad along the Silk Road dominated by Persians and Iranian interests from China to the Mediterranean. The region we now call Saudi Arabia, especially around Medina and Mecca, where Islam has its origin, was a land so poor and devoid of value that the Romans neglected it and never tried to bring it into their empire. Writing was virtually unknown. The Muslims honor above all the idea of the book, yet the founder of the religion was illiterate. He recited the Quran, the very name of which means simply recitation. The scribes, who were almost all foreigners, Christians and Persians. Of course, their religion, Islam, was not alone in being shaped by Persian ideas. Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism also received formational impulses from Iranian concepts because Persia was so rich in culture and deep in religious tradition and lore. And because the Arabs were so poor in all these things, it was only natural for elements to flow from the area of high culture density into the area of low culture density. This was not just a matter of religious or ritual practice, but also of every aspect of culture, from architecture to music to fashion to statecraft. Fundamental ideas that Islam probably took from Zoroastrianism include belief in one supreme God, heaven and hell, angels and demons, end of the world, final judgment, resurrection, 5 daily prayers, emphasis on helping the poor, and rejection of the worship of idols. An essential concept of the Mazdan faith is that her Mazda is the only true divinity, and that the religion devoted to its deity is all of humanity's true religion. Islam took this idea and reiterated it, that Islam was natural religion of man, and that people revert to it. They do not convert to it. Also, a biographical fact concerning Muhammad reinforces the assumption that these ideas came directly from Zoroastrianism and not from Judaism. It's the personal association between him and a man known as Salman al-Farsi. Solomon, the Persian, who was originally named Dastar Dinyar. This man was so close to the Prophet of Islam that he was considered part of the family of the Prophet. The title Dastar may indicate that he was in fact a Zoroastrian priest. This close original relationship would also go far to explain why Islam was so open to further Persian cultural influences. There are, however, also many points which set Islam at odds with their good religion. Unfortunately, we do not have many texts by Zoroastrians explaining the differences between the writing of such texts would have just drawn the attention of the Islamic authorities, causing further persecution. Those texts which might have existed were probably those which were destroyed. Islam uses Arabic, which always points to the convert to Arabic culture as being superior. Zoroastrianism uses Avestan, which is a purely religious language and is no longer directly attached to any living culture. Avestan can therefore be a universal reference. Despite whatever philosophical stance the Muslims make take. The fact is that the religion spread by coercion, rendering it morally illegitimate. Islam saddles the individual with obligatory laws of behavior. Zoroastrianism teaches the good and leaves it up to the individual to follow his or her conscience to think, speak, and do good. We saw in the form of the Karamis, followers of the Jewish religion, what post-Islamic Persians thought of Islam. That it was a sad and dour religion, full of deprivation and depression. They wanted to return to their ways of enjoying life. Muslims insist that Muhammad was the last prophet. Zoroastrians affirm that Zarathustra was the first prophet, and that there will be a future Sayoshant who will usher in the making wonderful. Looking back on history, it appears that Muhammad cleverly crafted an ideology and practice that was simple to learn. A few basic prayers in Arabic was an effective mode of unifying disparate people, motivating them toward conquest of their neighbors and profitably administering the conquered territories. The rewards of following the system are either an otherworldly paradise or one on this earth. Despite whatever similarities might have evolved throughout history, the religions of Zarathustra and Muhammad are very different in spirit and essence. In general, the Occidental Temple of the Wise Lord is open to a cordial relationship with individuals of all religions, regardless of what practitioners of religion have done in the past. Humans make choices for good or evil. Every moment of every day, evil acts of the past can be put behind us. And it is individuals who make these choices carry out those acts, not groups or religions. Humans who think well, speak well, and perform good acts are seen by us as Mazdans. Regardless of what they call themselves, there is only one Ahura Mazda, a deity that which all men and women of good conscience know in their hearts. Many call themselves Christians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, etc., even atheists. It has always seemed irrational and stupid that people could say, well, this man is going to burn in hell forever because he didn't believe in Jesus, or this woman is damned forever because she didn't recite these words with enough conviction. Rather, a rational God, which God must be, recognizes the good in all who think it, speak it, and do it. But our point of view is that the religion that understood the principle first understands it best, and it is in the Mazdan way that the individual will be most likely to find happiness devoid of illusion. In fact, the Mazdan way can perhaps even be a peacemaker between and among all the religions that borrowed from it over the millennia, as at least that is our hope.